All right, guys, welcome. I think I finally have this figured out, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about how to quickly analyze real estate virtually. All right, so this is something that we do because we're buying properties in bulk all over the country, and so you have to be able to be quick to do it. So for us, it's not going to make sense. We're located here in Northeast Central Florida in the Daytona Beach area. I can't drive all the way to Montana to look at a deal and inspect it. So you have to be able to quickly do that. And that's what I'm going to cover today. So before we get started, if please share the stream, we greatly appreciate that. Make sure you check out our website, odellbarnesreo.com. We have some amazing year-end deals on there. Don't let the end of the year stop you from adding to your portfolio this year, all right? It's a great time to pick up some new property, all right? And we're motivated to sell a whole bunch of stuff. So give us a call at 321-286-8253, and we'll be glad to put together a deal for you, all right? Also, make sure that you are following us on social media. There's our phone number on the screen. Make sure to follow us on social at here on Facebook, Odell Barnes REO, also on Instagram at Odell Barnes REO, and the same with Twitter, which I should use more, but I don't. But also check us out on YouTube. You can search us on through Odell Barnes REO on our YouTube channel as well. So, all right, let's dig into this. So I'm going to add this, share my screen here. This as big as possible. How do I switch that? Here we go. All right, so I'm going to show you a property that we purchased at auction. This is a property in Butte, Montana. And so this was on the auction list, and if you scroll down here, we'll be able to see the property when they were auctioning it was at $51,000. Okay, so how we do this and how we look to quickly analyze a deal is just to see what does the property look like. In other words, what does it have any kind of curb appeal? What does the neighborhood look like? What are some comparable sales in that area? How recent are they? And then we try to base that off and say, all right, well, if we can buy it for X amount of dollars, is it going to look like a great deal to somebody that's local to that area that would like to pick it up? Okay. So again, we're bidding on hundreds of properties a month. This month was, I think, like 600 some odd properties. I can't be in 600 different places at once. It's difficult for me to call and get realtors to look at every single piece of property in an efficient amount of time and give me information that I can really almost kind of get here online, okay? I know Zillow doesn't come with a tremendous amount of credibility, but it does serve a purpose, okay? So there is good data on there. You just have to know how to interpret it and what to look for, all right? So let's look at this particular property, all right? So I can see here that the property, it looks like it needs some work, and unfortunately it only looks like there's two different pictures, okay? So that doesn't give me a whole lot of data to work with. That means the inside could be a disaster. That means a lot of things. It could be stripped out. I just don't know. So I have to base my bid accordingly to that information or the lack thereof, all right? So again, I already showed you what they had it listed for. Zillow's estimate, you can take that with a grain of salt. $72,550 might be worth that. Fixed up, it might not. All right. It's got an estimated rent of $900. So if I want to look at this from an owner financing perspective, I have to look and say, okay, if I buy it for X and then I want to sell it on owner financing for Y, am I going to be competitive with the local rents? I actually want to be well below what the local rents are on any given property, because on an owner financing deal, there's a couple of reasons. One, I want to make it difficult for that person to want to leave. They're not going to be able to rent for any cheaper than what they're buying a property for, okay? So I've got to do that. So if something changes with the economy or their own financial position, worst case scenario, they're moving back with family, okay? But they're not going to find something that's cheaper on rent in this area, So that's important information, okay? So, but let's get around to the value, all right? So if we look down here, this is going to give us some information about the neighborhood. Maybe not. Let's see. Okay, so Zillow is going to show me some houses around it that these are off market. So, I mean, that doesn't do me a whole heck of a lot of good. I like to see comparable sales, right? So let's look at something else. So we can close this out. And now I'm going to look around this particular property. And I'm going to start using the filters that Zillow gives us, okay? So I think this was a 3-2, 3 bedrooms. And then we're not going to look at apartments or condos, townhomes, manufactured, or lots, since this is a single family home. And then I'm at properties with 2 baths. And now this property had 1,500 square feet. So I want to be within plus or minus 10% of that to give me a pretty good comparable sale. Okay. So let's just call it 1,300 as a minimum and a max of, we'll say, 1,750. All right. So now days on Zillow, I want to look at within the last 12 months at the most. I tend to like 6 a little bit better, but, and also let's go over here to listing type. I want to look at recently sold, rent. We'll take these off, these potential listings. All right. And now I'm going to hit apply over here. And so far, I don't see any sales directly around here. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit until we see something else. All right. Here's one sale over here. And there's not a whole lot of other properties for sale around this neighborhood. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me there might be a housing shortage in the area. Okay, so here's one that sold for $74,000 back in August. All right, so we look in the inside. This property got fixed up. All right, somebody went in and rehabbed this property before they sold it. And how can you tell? Well, I mean, it's still got stickers on the appliances. Okay. All the carpet and the paint scheme looks like it's, pretty much right out of the playbook of, creating a turnkey rental or a house flip. All right. So here we have a comparable sale of $74,300. Now, how am I going to use that data? Well, again, I'm going to base the bid price that they had of 50 some odd thousand and say, okay, if I could get this property for 25,000, and let's say I'm going to estimate it takes 30,000 to make the property look that way, that's probably not going to be a great flip opportunity, okay? Because the investor that's local to that market, they're not going to have a lot of meat left on that bone to have a deal. So now I'm automatically thinking this is an owner finance deal, potentially, okay? This is what the way my brain works when I'm looking at this deal. All right, so, but let's look at a couple of other websites. All right, so Zillow has given us some data. Let's look at icomps.com. All right, so icomps.com is going to show me and this site actually pulls data right from MLS, so it's a little bit more accurate than Zillow as far as the numbers go. So this property, this website is going to show me some stuff, and I want to look at the most recent sale date. So here we have one of 70,000 that sold in November. All right, let's see if it gives me any pictures. Not really. I don't even know which one I'm looking at. It could be this one. It could be this one. My guess is it's this one. If it's only 2 bedrooms, 1,100 square foot, that looks a lot bigger. All right, and then here we have another one. I don't even know what this is. It could be a house. I don't know. So their pictures are not as good as Zillow's. All right, so that's one thing that they are a detriment to for icomps. All right, but I can get a good idea of what exactly is been sold around it and what the distance is. All right. Also, it's going to show me the data of beds, baths, square footage, and year built. Also, make sure that your year built is comparable as well. All right. So icomps.com is also a great resource that you can check out. All right. And then finally, I'm going to look at realtor.com. Realtor.com is going to show me a couple of things. One, they're going to give me their estimate. This is actually higher than Zillow. All right, they're at 94,300. So I'm not sure what quite to believe here just yet when it comes to the value. So chances are I'm going to bid on this. We did bid on this property just because the math looked great from an owner financing perspective. It's a relatively small town. There's a limited amount of inventory. So that tells me that we probably won't have a problem selling this on an owner financing note. Okay. So scrolling down here, it shows me sort of how the value of this home has changed. Here it went from 95 down to 67.5 in 2017. Not sure why that happened, and then it jumped right back up. So that could have been a foreclosure that happened in the neighborhood that really affected the pricing. It's hard to say. Here are some similar homes that are for sale around town. And then this is also going to show you a map of some comps and some properties that are currently for sale around the property. All right. Good data. I mean, the schools in this town look decent, not 100% great, but the high school looks pretty good. All right. So that's always a good thing to look at when you're thinking about owner financing a property. A family might want to make sure they're in a good or a decent school district. Right. All right. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to virtually drive the neighborhood. All right. So this is from 2012. All right. So it's not the most accurate. A lot could have changed with this neighborhood in the last 6 years. All right. I've changed as a person tremendously in the last 6 years. So I don't know what happened in this neighborhood. Maybe nothing. It's a small town, Montana. Maybe not much has changed. All right. But nonetheless, I want to get an idea of what exactly is going on around this area. All right. So first and foremost, I think I see some train tracks here. All right. Not a huge fan of that, but some people it doesn't bother. All right. But across the street, I see some pretty nice, like decent little cookie cutter houses. Right. So now I'm going to drive down the street and see what else we could see here. All right. So I've got some more single family homes, potentially a multifamily property right here. This guy's park's kind of weird. And then, I just want to drive down the street and see how everything else looks. If I see, we buy a lot of property in places like Detroit, right? So if the entire neighborhood is all boarded up, I'm not buying it, all right? So if I see a lot of that kind of stuff, we tend to steer clear, all right? But let's just drive down here and then see. We get into some businesses, and we've got Mountain View, nice, potentially a little downtown area down there. So, I mean, this isn't a bad little town, and I think, potentially we're going to get some traffic if we throw some signs up, on this light pole, for instance, all right? So, at any rate, this is a deal that we bought, and, ended up being a great deal for us. So, and turns out that a local realtor is probably going to be getting us a great offer on this property next week. So it ended up being worth more than what we anticipated. And Realtor.com actually ended up being closer to the real deal when it came to the actual value of the property. So remember, they had it at about $94,000. And here's what happens with, a lot of these properties. So if you look at a place like auction.com or 10X Properties, Hudson Marshall, Hubzoo, whatever, okay? A lot of times when you're dealing with the bids on these properties, you're not dealing with somebody that's here from the US, okay? So when that happens, they don't necessarily understand the concept of putting together a deal to make it make sense, all right? So they just have a flat number that they look at, and that's it. All right. So a realtor in this town might have said, well, hey, I've been trying to sell this property, but nobody will return my calls. This is not uncommon when it comes to dealing with these auction companies. So a lot of times when we get these deals, the person that once they find out somebody else owns it will call us and say, hey, I've been trying to buy this place for like the last 2 years and nobody would call me. And we do a bunch of deals that way. So, just because you think that, oh my God, this place has been on the market for 2 years, and nobody's bought it, that there's not a market for it, it's not necessarily true. All right. So you need to understand that a lot of stuff gets lost in translation with these big auction houses between buyer and seller. And we take advantage of that, which is good for us. But nonetheless, this is how you can quickly analyze an auction property. If you want to buy some auction properties, I encourage you to go to our website, odellbarnesreo.com, or reach out to us. If you like to buy properties for yourself to owner finance, you can certainly do that. Give me a call, 321-286-8253. Be glad to talk with you about that. I know a lot of people are starting to get really nervous about the market. You've seen massive fluctuations in the stock market just over the last couple of weeks. And so if you want to start securing some of the money you've made in this very, very long bull run that you've done well in, maybe in IRA or 401k, it's time to start looking at maybe self-directing a portion of that, or at least locking your gains, and start to buy some real assets that can produce positive cash flow for you. All right. And owner financing is one of the best ways to do that. I got some great friends. They love to do turnkey rentals and, all these things. But owner financing is one of the greatest things. If we sell this property on owner financing, chances are we won't do anything to it. How could I? It's in Butte, Montana. I'm in Florida. I don't know anybody in Butte, Montana. I don't have any contractors in Butte, Montana that I could probably trust. Believe it or not, I actually do. Now that I think about it, I do have a couple of contacts in Montana, but they're in like Missoula, and I have no idea if that's even close. But nonetheless, this property is actually going to end up being a good deal. And if you want to get these kinds of deals, check out our website, give us a call. And then again, if you have questions about owner financing and maybe how you can get into that without having to do a whole lot of work, definitely reach out to us and talk with us, and we'll talk with you about our services to our investors and what we do to help them build wealth for themselves. So thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it. And if we can be of service to you, definitely reach out. Other than that, I think we'll have one more broadcast for this year. And then we'll look forward to the holiday season, and hope you guys are all getting ready for that. So cheers, and we'll see you next week.